broadcasting here on Zoom
Yep.
as well. Yes. All right. Welcome everybody coming in on Zoom here and as well on Facebook Live on multiple pages that Jamie has been able to post out to today. Welcome to our first live with Nassim of 2021. We've made it this far, Nassim. That's pretty good. We're six days in, and so far, I don't know. Today's a wild and crazy day. I just got this. Not that we're going to go political on this, but Apple News says Trump supporters have stormed the Capitol, forcing the evacuation of Congress and disrupting the electoral vote count.
Uh-oh. Okay. Yeah, you know,
So anyway, wild times.
It's just a long 2020.
Yeah, it's just the extended version.
But yeah, well, yeah, it's kind of wild out there. The Wild West has come back.
Your mic is still super hot for some reason. It's like really edgy. So I don't know if we're gonna need to turn it down again or something.
Okay, let me try working on it.
I don't know why, but it's super hot and it's kind of got this rough, fuzzy edge to it. So anyway, welcome everybody. While you do that, we've got a bunch of people coming in here on Zoom. Welcome everybody coming in on Facebook Live to our Live with Nassim Q&A. Always a fun, interesting, compelling journey with your questions. Those that are here on Zoom, please feel free to post questions in the Q&A. A few of you have begun to do that already, I see. The Q&A button is down on the bottom if you're not familiar with that. And if you could just post one question or maybe two, and then you can vote the questions up. So the ones you think are most interesting for yourselves or you know what you're interested in having the Nassim address, you can vote them up, and we love to get to those ones that are popular. And also put your name and where you're coming in from in the chat, and say hello. Let us know where you're coming from. Do that on Facebook as well. Do that on Facebook Live, on the feeds there. We always love to know who's here and where around the world you're beaming in from. And also when you're using the chat, I like to remind people to make sure that you have your settings to, where's my chat? It's not showing up. Oh. To, what's it say? Panelists and all attendees, or everyone, whichever that option is. Otherwise, a lot of your chat messages just come to us. So so check that. Make sure your setting is set for that, so everybody can see your chats. That's here on the Zoom. We always appreciate everybody coming in on Zoom here to bring your questions, to interact with Nassim, and we're always grateful for our contributing members who are supporting us to be able to provide these great sessions with Nassim. So we have every first Wednesday of the month with Nassim, and every third Wednesday of the month with the faculty for the Residence Academy. And so how's it there, Nassim? That's your, oh, you're muted now, so make sure you can unmute.
Is that better?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Do I need to bring the volume up or?
Seems okay to me.
Okay, great.
Jamie,
It's good.
Jamie, what do you think? It's good? Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, great. Yeah, so
all right, well,
I'm always excited to share with the community and talk about physics and whatever else we want to talk about. Sometimes it definitely goes in all kinds of interesting directions, so it's always exciting. And there's always good questions, and we always run out of time on questions. So let's start with questions early this time. Okay. I'm not gonna babble too much. But I'm really happy to enter the 2021 era with you all, and I think it's gonna be an amazing year. I think a lot of amazing things are happening, and for me, uh, I mean, certainly in physics there and astrophysics, there's a lot of publishing that's occurring right now that is very interesting, very important, and there's a lot of amazing news, many of which are confirming many of the things I've been proponent of for a long time. And so I'm pretty excited uh, to see that transformation happening in the physics community and in the scientific community at large. There's really important work that's being published now, and it's work that really, I think, is showing that there is like a renaissance of, kind of air in the scientific community currently, and it's really amazing to see it happen. And I really kind of, how do you say, want to like I'm really proud to see the scientific community making uh, uh, open inquiry into questions that for the large part, were ignored in the last, few decades. And so it's nice to see, and it's nice to see the open mind and on all topics, including topics that are like considered voodoo, like extraterrestrial life and
Mhm.
so on. There's lots happening, and there's a lot of discussion, and it's honest, open discussion, and it's nice to see.
It's good to hear.
Yeah.
I think we are at the threshold of these kinds of breakthroughs. I think the pressure is on us,
Yeah.
like there's so many directions in our world. The
Yeah.
pressure is like really on. And so I think when you get that kind of pressure, it starts to push the envelope of what's acceptable to talk about, as well as the insights, that we've been exploring for years, coming out more into a mainstream awareness.
Of course.
And none
Yeah.
too soon.
Yeah, and there's many published papers that are occurring. I was reading one this morning, for instance, on quantum decoherency and the concept of the arrow of time, which is usually
Mm.
associated with the collapse of the waveform in the quantum decoherency, model, and disproving that conjuncture, um,
Mm.
and showing that it requires the observation, and it has to do with memory. And I thought that was nice.
Yeah.
I was wondering, you know um maybe they read my paper somewhere, forgot to
Maybe.
mention it, but my paper anyway was not directly addressing what they are addressing in this paper, but it's interesting to see that the thoughts pattern of that memory in the structure of the quantum foam is most likely, what produced evolution concepts, or which is attributed to memory. I take a different approach than the paper. I don't think of memory literally. You know, the paper was published in very prestigious journal. It's a journal that published Einstein. So, but I take a more conservative approach than the authors of the paper. That is, it might appear more conservative. Actually, it's more radical, and that is that the structure of space-time itself is the observation, if you'd like, meaning that you can't really dissociate the observer and the observed, and that's an error that we do all the time. Like the frame of reference is part of the metric of space-time, and there is correlations, like, you know, like entanglement, if you'd like, in this relationship. And this entanglement is the information network through the singularity structure of space-time. Like that part they don't have, but they're getting there. So they at least realizing that time is a construct. The concept of an arrow of time is a construct of our observation. And there's a deeper mechanics, that has to do with information on the structure of space. So of course they use entropy, and or the holographic approach, entropy, but it's not treated as mechanically, or more precisely, it's not treated um, as physically as I'd like it to be. And like they're getting there. It's just they need my equation, so that's coming. Yeah. Not in
Are
this
they,
next. Yeah. Go ahead.
are they referencing the memory function as part of the nature of what the entropy is in that mechanical aspect? As because I know the unified space memory network is putting that memory function right into the structure of space-time itself. Are they doing any kind of a similar correlation?
They're showing that it's no, not formally, meaning they don't formally. That's why I was saying they're not at the physical level of the mechanics, of it. They don't have that worked out. They're just showing that the earlier interpretation, can be shown to be invalid, or at least, incomplete. The idea that the arrow of time is correlated to, the collapse of the waveform in quantum theory, or decoherency, is not an appropriate relationship, because the time functions that don't work out. So mm, it's a paper that's very important, because it shows that that's not an adequate, uh, model to define the concept of evolution, or an arrow of time, right? And that it can be resolved if you look at it in terms of memory. That is what they define as the observer. Now, that's where we diverge, meaning the observer is space-time, meaning it's a relationship between points in space-time. If one of those points happen to be a human being, that's great, but it's not human-centric, right? That is, memory is fundamental, right, to the quantum field in the structure of space-time. Yeah, and they approach that. They don't write it formally, because the mechanics are not known. They have the right direction, though. They're using entropy.
Right. Yeah. Good. Well, interesting to hear. There's a complementary theory that can benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I look forward to reaching out to those guys with our latest paper, which will not address that part specifically, but which will have the formalism that is easily transferable, or at least
Nice.
is transferable. I
That's
don't know how easily, it depends how you define easily, right?
yes.
I mean, after
We
all,
shall
you're
see.
defining the base of reality and consciousness, you know, at the same time.
Oh, that can be easily done.
Yeah, I mean, well, the formalism is already written
Yeah.
in my case, so it's just a question of pushing the equation, you know,
Uh-huh.
to define the feedback structure.
And that's in the upcoming paper you're talking about, right?
Well, no, that's in the upcoming paper is just a formalism to physics.
Yeah,
I
the
don't
formalism to it,
address
basically.
consciousness or, you
Right,
know,
right. Yeah. The formalism is there in that upcoming paper. So
yeah,
when
exactly.
that is ready, then that can be brought in.
Yeah,
Well, that's
then
great.
that can be rolled into the you know,
Cool.
eventually systems becoming self-organized, scaling, you know, and
Yeah.
system becoming self-organized and using the forces as like information relationship, like gravity, information moving in, electromagnetism, information moving out, relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and then using these calculation to describe like the data rate of a system, if you'd like, you know, and then you could push that to like animal, more complex system, animal system, kingdom, and then eventually, you know, humanity, or, you know,
Mm-hmm.
humanoids, self-awareness, you know, we might be able to actually calculate a threshold, you know, where
Mm-hmm.
self-awareness becomes prominent in the
Mm-hmm.
system, you know, and so on. And yeah, I mean, it could, we can apply it to future evolutionary paths. So we might be able to even predict.
That'll be predictive. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it would be predictive to future evolutionary path of system, like how biology would continue to complexify and evolve, you know,
Mm.
and
Mm.
we might even get possible mechanical um, definition of um, of um, of biological behaviors, meaning in terms of like mutations, you know, both at the, you know, cellular level, but as well, you know, mutation in the global environment based on the complexifying of the system and so on. And you know, you could even add technology to it, meaning that the complexifying of the system means as well that the system is developing capacities that are extracurricular to its natural state, meaning, you
Mm-hmm.
know, it can fly, but not because it grew wings, right?
Yeah, but it's still an evolutionary driver.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So the complexity is more, it's non-local, meaning it's global. So that you have to, you can't, again, you can't isolate the system. You got to look at the relationship, like the structure. The complexity is not just the complexity of the being itself, it's a complexity of its social structure and relationships, and you know, it's developments, global developments. So it could
We
even
are,
lead to sociology and, you know, all
yeah,
kinds of other sciences of evolutionary biology and so on.
yeah, and we're so rapidly complexifying at this time.
Yeah,
technologically speaking, you know, just radical shift going on. So to be in any way be predictive of what that might be.
Including people busting inside Congress and you know, today, but whatever, you know, so it you know, it gets, hopefully the system globally, you know, uh, goes through those events in terms of, like, if you were looking at it just from a perspective of a system gaining energy, you know, the system is gaining energy, right? It would go through moments of chaotic transformation because it would require you know, like a change in frequency. And when it goes through a change in frequency, right, higher energy, higher frequency, right, more waves per second, if you like, right? So so when it goes through there, there's chaotic phases where, like, the information is canceling out and things are not. So if you, like, for instance, if you put energy in a balloon, you know, like a flexible surface, and you keep putting more and more energy, it goes through moments of really chaotic behaviors and it looks like it's going to rip apart. But if it has the tensile strength to hold together, then it will pop into the new frequency, right? The higher frequency eventually. It starts by actually making little islands of the new frequency appear and disappear. And then eventually there's more and more of those. And then eventually the whole thing pops into the next level. Huh? And so I think we're in the little chaotic part of the evolutionary path. And that's a good thing because that means we're about to pop into the next frequency. And I would suggest that this next frequency is going to be quite amazing. So we just got to make sure that we have the tensile strength to make it. And what's the tensile strength for us? Well, that's our capacity to hold hands and be strong, you know, and be together, you know, not let the thing rip, right? So you know, through the chaotic phase we have to, like, keep that sense of connection and that sense of oneness, even if we are practicing social distancing, which, you know, to me is like a misnomer, right? It's not so social to be distancing, but that's another story. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump into some questions, Nassim.
I'm sure.
Yes, let's do that. So the top contenders have been in kind of this horse race this whole time. They keep changing. Well, no, I want that one. I want that one. So current top contender is from Gilbert 22 Angel 33. Have you had, and we'll see how far you want to go with this one. Have you had any experiences with ETs lately? I know you've mentioned that you have before in an interview. I'm curious to know if any late encounters of any late encounters and what kind of beings you've come in contact with.
Okay.
And just so you know, I'm going to mention again that I'll invite the questioner to come on as a panelist. If you'd like to say hi, you can open up your video, unmute yourself. And if you don't want to do that, just leave your video and audio off. No problem. No obligation to come on. All right, go for it.
So well, okay. I'm gonna first give an answer that's frustrating for most people. because they want to get the juicy details. But let me just say that the concept of extraterrestrial is probably alien to the extraterrestrial community. um, because they don't feel like they're extra anything. Um, I'm sure. And so, you know, recent contacts with extraterrestrials, yeah, my lab is full of them. Um, the, um, let's just say that there's never a moment where there's no contact with the extraterrestrial community. Um, hey, bro,
Hey, what's up, Nassim?
nice to meet you.
Great to meet you. It's an honor.
Where are you at, bro?
Right now, I'm in Victorville, but I'm from Orange County.
Orange County. Okay. Um, so yeah, it's a good question. Um, well, there's been a lot of sightings. Did you notice in Hawaii as well?
Yeah, yes, I feel like it's just slowly sleeping into the consciousness for us to accept. So I don't mean so much extraterrestrial or really even interterrestrial. What I mean is just other entities of conscious, awareness that
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say that in that sense, then I'm in a constant contact with with the with being of, you know, whether they're in the body and I see them every day at work, or they're, in the vacuum, um oscillating at a different frequency. I think that I feel like there's constant contact. I don't know if it's the same for everybody, but for me, it's like that. And so I'm
do
talking to
you
them, they're talking to me.
do you feel like they're just like our other multi-dimensional selves that are like fractals of us?
There's a part of
They're like,
that that I think is like our own. I describe consciousness as like an electromagnetic oscillation at a certain frequency that you're tuned into, right? Like, so your consciousness is like a set of memory imprints on the structure of space-time that goes millennia, not just like connected to one of your lives, or what we call when you have matter, right? But the information of that specific frequency through time, through space, right? um and that your the product, the end product currently, like in your body right now, of this consciousness. And so you are accessing, and all these memory imprints are in their present in their coordinates in space-time, meaning they're parallel, they're not in the past. We call it the past because we think of it as a memory, but actually the information is still there in the present, of these coordinates, right? Meaning where the information is in the structure of space, literally. And so it's like parallel computing, all this information. And so it's like, how you have a little voice in your head.
yes.
Yeah, like there's a
Yeah,
dialogue.
yeah.
There's a dialogue going on, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Consciousness,
Yeah, so that dialogue is you talking to the universe and the universe talking back to you.
the feedback loop.
Yeah. See, because you can observe yourself like a third party, right? You can
Mhm.
you can observe yourself like, um
From a bigger perspective, like in a
right.
different decibel. That's like how dimensions are described as in you're just like right now we're in the like in a density where it's our perspective is limited, so we can gain like a higher perspective by escaping out of that point of view. Is that what you're kind of describing?
It's
Like it's all
I
we're
would
all
use
one, but we're
just a
just like
different,
in a
yeah,
fraction.
yeah, just I would just use a different word than escaping. I would I would replace that by integrating, right? So we're not trying, it's not like you need to escape your body. Your body is doing the job, you know. That's your link to the whole thing, right? Is it's good. It's just that you 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 integrate what's actually going on in your body as like something at a deeper level than just the superficial level of working, doing your thing every day, doing, you know, all the, you know, I call it going vertical, right? So there's the horizontal world, everything you're doing and what, you know, your brain needs to do every day to do your stuff and all this stuff. And then there is higher frequencies. That means more information set that are not necessarily local, like you were saying, you know, it's not like, it's not in your locality, it's not just your limited senses of your body now, it's, you know, extracurricular senses.
Mm.
um and and as well, we limit a lot the senses of the body to what we know. We don't realize the body as, you know, other senses, like for instance, um capacity. For instance, I'm working with um martial art people that, and a physicist that's investigating this group of martial art people that are teaching people to see when they're blind, or they put masks on them where they can't see at all, and they get them to run through mazes and shoot at balloons with Nerf guns, and, you know, tell colors, even write, you know, words that are already written on the board, and they go and trace over them, you know, and all this. And so showing that there's senses, for instance, photocells and so on in the cellular body, and you know that there's senses we don't explore, what we have not explored yet, that the body can do. And that's what I was talking about earlier about, with Marshall as well at the introduction, is that when we push the theory further, we can see maybe like an evolution, you know, of like breatharians, you know, and so on, like an evolution of the way the complexity of even the body could evolve to something different, right? But that's the next evolutionary path, you know, and things like that.
So
And,
I
and
recall
if you
you
met one
in
of
an
those
interview. Sorry
guys, you
to
might,
interrupt.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I remember you mentioning before that you've done breatharian work for like about a year and you've had an experience of levitation. Think that's a part in showing the integration of like changing your density of vibration to gaining those abilities? Was that an example to show that you're integrating into a different density?
Yeah, exactly. More information flow, you know, and that can have gravitational effects. It can have, you know, all kinds of effects, time, you know, warping effects and so on. But if, you know, in my case, I didn't do it on purpose. You know, both of those things, meaning I became a breatharian because I ran out of money and I was doing research and I was in a van and I thought, you know, well, I already barely eat because I'm like completely engrossed in the research 20 hours a day. And the time I'm not doing that, I'm climbing, you know. So, and so I thought, well, you know, I can at least save that money. So I stopped eating. And when I was sleeping, two times I was you know, it was circumstances where people walked into the room I was in, and another time when they walked into my van. But um, yeah, I was at a friend's place and, taking a nap because he had given me the key so I could go and take a shower and take a nap if I wanted to take a break from the van. And, I just went and I did that. And I fell asleep on the carpet, and, he just walked in, and I was not,
Just floating around.
yeah, I was not completely on the ground. I was not very far, but I dropped, and so, the, so there's things that the body can do that are remarkable. Um, um, if people are interested in that group, for instance, Viber Vision is the name of the group if you want to look it up, and you'll find really interesting stuff, including telekinesis, which is remarkable. They're teaching this to kids. Kids, they say from I talked with them are learning it within like 2 weeks and so on. So anyway, back to your question. Um, if you I but to be more direct, I've not had a direct contact for a while with the galactic community, but I thought it was really interesting that this general ex you know director of security for airspace in Israel came forward and talked about the Galactic Federation in those terms specifically last month. Amongst the election and the COVID news, it kind of got lost. But I
Well,
thought,
did you see that they have 180 days to release their research? That was
yes,
in part of their
right,
bill, I guess.
yeah,
I think it's just slowly seeping into human consciousness, and we got to like unite. Like that's like, do
well,
we really deserve all of these technologies? Like, are we prepared to accept it? And like, do people really deserve that chance? To like really heal if they haven't done the hard work themselves to try. Like all of these things are like questions, and just like the way they're slowly integrating us into like that type of like dimension where we can accept like extra, or I don't even like to use extraterrestrial or interterrestrial
yeah,
terms to describe them, but other entities of conscious awareness like us or even beyond. I think it's just funny like how they seep that into our society, like these movies that they're showing. The Wonder Woman 1984 was like showing basically like if everybody was granted their wish, like things would be out of balance, like things, there has to be like a certain balance that we have to abide by. So
yeah. Well,
Mm.
there. I think that we're definitely reaching that point where we are in a place that, first of all, I think the general population would have no problem with the fact that there's extraterrestrial. More most statistical, um, results show that the large, more than 50% of the population believe there's extraterrestrial. Um, the scientific community at this point knows there's extraterrestrial. They don't necessarily all agree if they could make it here or not, but let's just say that at this point, especially with the release of the Pentagon videos and material last year, which didn't get much news either, right? You would think that'd be a big thing, right? Like, oh,
Mhm.
the Pentagon release, and in the press release
it's
clearly said,
amazing.
like,
It's amazing.
yeah, the press release clearly said, like, vehicle from different origin than Earth, right? That just kind of sealed the
Just
deal.
like,
And
oh, whatever.
yeah, and it was just a blip on the metric, of the COVID-19 coverage. And so it's
Yeah.
like, okay, but at least, but it's coming out, and people are, you know.
What's
Well, let's leave it at that for now.
I think it's
We
more
got a
so
whole
like the
bunch of more questions.
technologies, like yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you guys.
Great to meet you, man.
Nassim, Resident Science Foundation, Marshall, I love you guys. Thank you guys for bringing me on.
Well,
Appreciate it. Much love.
You take care. Much love to you.
Well. Awesome.
Yeah.
So many aspects of that conversation to go on and on with.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a complex
Great.
subject.
All right. Well,
touchy, too.
this next one is from Joseph Hernandez, and I would suggest, not only for the sake of just kind of succinct answering, but also I think that the nature of this question is looking for like a very simple explanation that can be shared with others, which is so that I can explain this better to people. With your theory, could you explain where gravity comes from and why? And so, like, in the most simple terms, if anybody that's listening here wants to describe that to somebody else, without getting lengthy and technical, how would you say that they could do that? I'll get Joseph here.
Yeah. Well, you know, I understand the first part of the question, like, what is gravity? I'm not sure about the why part, you know, like why gravity, but it's, you know, maybe if we bring him on, then I can ask him. But
yeah.
So basically,
hello again. Can you hear me?
Nice to meet you.
Yes.
Nice to see you.
Hey,
I saw we spoke last time. I asked about the gravity. I had my glasses on now, and I had the electric wires in the back.
Oh yes.
From us.
Oh, I remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm mostly interested in getting to that gravity drive so we can, you know, jump to the future.
Yeah.
And how do I explain gravity? And I know you're testing different materials.
Well, think of gravity as a flow of information inwards towards the center. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you could think of it almost as a partial gas pressure of the Planck field, if you'd like. So basically like a superfluid, but there's a certain amount of entropy. It's almost a superfluid, meaning that locally we absolutely would call it a superfluid, but over scales, it has a very slight entropy, and that because there's disorder, right? Because there's information going in and information going out, so this interaction between the two that produce some entropy, that entropy is what we call mass. Okay. So you have information going in, you have information going out, and the little friction between what's going in and out, entropy, which is thermodynamics, is what we call mass, the energy that we. So to answer your question, I could not answer it by only isolating gravity, because this is a unified field theory. So the fields are related, and the mechanics of those fields are connected. So you can't explain gravity without explaining electromagnetism. The two are just the two only direction the universe knows. It's either going in or it's going out. The scales are very large, right? You're going from the universal size to the Planck size. So the entropy is extremely slight, but it's enough that it produced the energy level that produced the proton, the electron, you know, the atoms, the molecules, the biology, the planets, the stars, the galaxies, all that stuff. That's the leakage between what's going in and what's going out.
Mhm. Okay.
The
I'm trying to understand that.
Right. Well, you know, more to your goal, you want a gravity drive, right?
Yes.
So yeah, so if you know that, then you know that if you can, then now you know the mechanics between the electromagnetic field and the gravitational field. And so you can make in laboratory a device that will reproduce that. And by changing the ratio of what goes in and what comes out, you should be able to control the gravitational field, right?
Okay. I'm trying to understand, but I'm glad
Yeah.
it's being recorded. I'm glad we're recording this.
Yeah, you'll be able to watch it again, but
yes.
let me try to make it more clear. You know, if you're in your bath and you pull the plug, right, you get a vortex of water.
Mm-hmm.
And if you took Einstein field equations, you could apply them to the surface of the water, and where it curves, you would say there's gravity.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
The
Because
space-time bending.
Yeah. And because if you take your rubber ducky, I don't know if you take a bath with the rubber ducky still, but if you take a rubber ducky and you put it near, it would like orbit and be attracted, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. What the unified view of physics transformed this first approximation from Einstein to is that, well, if you look at the water, it's made out of little bits that are spinning in that vortex.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just the surface curving. The surface curving is the result of the spin of those little particles we call water particles, right?
Okay. Uh-huh.
And in that region of the water, the particles are co-moving. They're moving together, right? Where on the other side of the bath, they're like chaotic, moving in all kinds of ways. So the rubber ducky doesn't feel anything over there.
Okay.
But when you put it close, because they're all moving, co-moving, they're curving the space, and the rubber ducky gets attracted. When they are spinning those molecules as well, they're falling into the drain. Right?
Yes.
So
yes.
you can think of each molecule as like a bit of information that's falling into the drain.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And okay, let me try to follow the analogy further, right? As the water falls into the drain, it's displacing air in the pipe, right? It's meaning air is coming out.
The information.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
and is that Hawking radiation or something like that?
That's the electromagnetic field, right?
Okay.
Okay. So there's information going in and information coming out. There's a very specific ratio of these two things.
Okay.
And specific pressure of these two things. Right? And that specific relationship is what we call mass. Meaning, when we see a proton in space, that's what we're seeing. Information falling into a black hole, a singularity, right? And it appears, there's electromagnetic, charge or electrostatic charge that emerge, and it becomes polarized and all this. And so basically what we're seeing is that behavior, and we see it as an energy event, right, that we call mass, right? Because we know that mass is equal to energy through E equals mc squared. Right?
Okay. Yes.
So I can't explain to you gravity without explaining to you electromagnetism and the source of mass.
I see. Okay.
Because they're all part of a dynamic of space that is unified. It's not different things. So,
okay.
Yeah. And so, but now you have all the elements to make mass.
Yes.
In your laboratory.
Yes.
Right? Make energy, right? Or make curvature in your laboratory, right? So for instance, if I made a mass over your head that was large enough, you would start levitating towards it.
Yes. So I think, okay, go ahead.
And then if if as you levitated towards it, let's say the thing that's making the mass above your head, right, is on you, is some device you have on you. As you move towards that, as you levitated towards that, if I kept on moving it, you know, it would continue to, you know, suck you in towards it.
Yeah. Okay. So it would be making gravity somehow with that information, somehow to make the electromagnetic field produce that information to simulate mass to counteract the current gravity.
Correct.
That's on me.
So that your gravitational attraction is no longer to the Earth. Right?
Okay.
So it's a very great way of doing things because everything, anyway, there's many implications, but let's just say that you can clearly, if you can do this, if you can produce a pinch in space-time in a region of space like this, you can make a device that you can go in that's making that singularity ahead of itself and falling into it everywhere it goes. So, and you can accelerate that to very, very high velocity, and as well direct it to where you need it, so you go in the correct direction. So, though all these things are important to be able to build what you're hoping to get, which is this like Z axis button in your car so that you can go up, you know, on the Z axis. Right?
Okay, that's just so much to process, but I know you've said in the past that this is within 10 years, like this is so close to happening. I was going to ask, and you've spoken with leaders, I believe. I mean, does the current administration or the incoming possible administration, do these people know about these developments that's going to happen?
Well, there's different branches of the administration structure, you know, and so it depends at which branch level, you know, you asking, do they know? But let's just say that I think in general, let me just say that in general, the financial and social structures is aware that something big is about to happen to humanity. They're just not sure what. In general, they know it has to do with energy, you know, and it has to do with energy production and so on. They don't necessarily understand the gravitational implication of it, but, you know, it's not new to them. For instance, NASA has a section, you know, ran by Sonny White that like is working on the warp drive using these principles.
Microwaves. This is the EM drive, that drive that
The EM drive is something they tested as a third party. This was invented by somebody in England, and you know, was in the field for many times. The Chinese tested it, and then eventually NASA did. But I mean, Sonny White has been for a few decades working on, you know, using the quantum fluctuation energy to curve space-time to produce a warp drive with toroidal coils and so on. So, and the M drive kind of fell into his lap as like, you know, I was like, hey, you know, this is some evidence of vacuum engineering producing thrust, which he was able to confirm, right? And which has to do with what I was telling you about electromagnetic fields producing gravitational effects, right?
Yeah. Okay, I don't want to take up everyone's time, but I love being on these calls. This is just the most exciting thing I've ever done.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to have you. And those are good questions.
Yeah. Yes, very good. Thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care,
Take
bro.
care.
Yes, you too.
All right. Next question is from our longtime friend, Luke Archambault. I'll bring Luke on in a moment. So this is getting some clarification. I think it's a good, really fundamental question here related to the geometry of the torus. And Luke's saying, still confused about double torus. Tori are always double, and we see it clearly in galaxies, Earth's atmosphere, etc. But where is the meeting point of the two tori in apples and trees and us when the lower tori are not visible? And there's also this notion that the double torus corresponds to matter and antimatter. Can you expand on this, please?
Okay. Okay. So the double torus is defined by the fact that the polarity, the polarization of the vacuum, the polarity of the vacuum, will produce a you know, a rotation counter rotation relationship that will produce a double torus, and this this behavior you can see correctly as you look. You're correct in this, you know, saying it's in galaxies and so on. You can see it in stars as well, because planets orbit the equators of stars because of that geometry being present, structuring space-time. I mean, it's space-time that structure it, depending on which side of the loop you want to look at it. But that's why rings are at the equators of planets. That's why, like, for instance, Einstein worked on the Saturn rings and the Jupiter ring. I don't know if they had the Jupiter ring at the time, if they had, but I know that Hubble worked on Saturn's ring as well. This it's not well defined in the standard model because the structure of space-time curvature is not well described by the field equations. And mostly because rotation and Coriolis effects are not incorporated, meaning torque and Coriolis effects are not incorporated. So the mapping is very minimal. It's like a first level approximation. And that's why, the equatorial disk that defines the geometry, the plane of the geometry, let's make it even more basic. Gyroscopic effects are not well defined in physics, meaning they're understood. We have equations for them, but there's deep questions about frame of references that are not answered by the standard model, that have to do with simple rotation and gyroscopic effect and Coriolis effect. So, those requires a field as a frame of reference, and that field geometry, the polarization of the field, like for instance, you spin a gyroscope, there's this problem in physics that has to do with Mach principle and so on, that have to do with how do you define the frame of reference of a spinning system that clearly has a polarity. So so if you take a gyroscope and you try to move it, it will resist that movement. It can be somewhat explained in terms of the relationship of the mass inside that gyroscope, but badly explained in terms of its relationship to the space. What I mean by that is that this is not so well understood, neither not so well known, not so well, mainly that people don't necessarily realize that. So even like very seasoned physicists, so this is gonna make some physicists jump, but we don't quite have all the data to define how a bicycle stays up when it's moving. This is one of the reasons Einstein was shown riding bicycles on famous pictures, because he was playing with that fact that, like, well, this is kind of miraculous right here, and maybe we should figure this out. So this, so the double torus geometry emerged from this relationship of the field and the angular momentum of the object. So, and the polarization of that angular momentum. So a spin counterspin relationship, right? So remember, just before I was talking about the drain, absorbing the water. So let's say that's a black hole, right? Now, or a singularity. So now you don't just have water going down the drain one way, you have another one going, because it's falling towards the singularity, but in all direction, mostly on the rotational axis, right? Because it has a path towards the center in which information, or the fluid of space-time, whatever you want to call it, the field can fall in. But at the equator, it has large Coriolis force, large centrifugal force. So at the equator is mostly, emission, right? So imagine the two vortices meeting, right? And so the angular velocity increase, getting faster and faster and faster. And at one point, depending on what is being attracted, like the mass of what's being attracted, right, it's gonna fling out. And it's gonna, and that point, if all the masses are the same, well, that point is gonna be in a very specific horizon state, like at a very specific point, and then it's going to come out from that point and it's going to produce a plane of electromagnetic radiation. Like when you look at a galaxy, that's exactly what you see. You see a plane of electromagnetic radiation. Huh? When we take pictures, for instance, of the CMB, we see the plane of the galaxy very, like it's where there's a lot of emission of the electromagnetic field. So that plane is defined by those dynamics, those fluid dynamics of space-time.
Yeah, my question is why sometimes we see it and sometimes it's not obvious at all.
Because it depends how coherent it is, meaning it depends at which level of coherency you're looking at it. There's scales where it's not as apparent, right?
Like what about with an apple, like an apple Nassim, where
right,
it's not obvious.
Oh, the plane is not obvious? You mean?
Yeah, the double torus nature. It looks like a single torus or an orange or something.
Oh, yeah, no, if you look carefully, you'll see that like where the seeds are. You can think of the seeds as the plane where the information is coming out now, okay. Right? Okay, and then if you look at the little bed that the seeds are in, the little thing that the seeds are in, it pinches like that, and it defines the equatorial plane.
Okay.
Yeah, it makes a little, if you cut the apple into, you'll see it makes a little flower in the middle, right? Like 90-degree angle, like thing. Yeah, that's the pinch.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have, in some cases, you have to look for it more deeply. It's harder to see. Galaxies are great because you can see it so easily. Like a star is harder to see, but if you look at the bands, of rotation of the plasma of a star, then you see the double torus. It's a quadruple, basically. And then you can see that like the planet stays on the equatorial plane,
right,
just like the galaxy. So now you see the relationship, right? Like in the galaxy's case, it's the stars that stays in that band. It's still thick, for us because galaxies are so huge, right? It's like 1,000 years to go. It's 30,000 years to go around. So not to go half cycle, so 60,000 years to go around, right? That we're in that spiral in the band. But looking at a galaxy, you can see it's very, although it's wide enough for, for us, from our scale, it's very thin relative to the galaxy. So basically, if you look at Coriolis effects, so for instance, for the Earth, you might miss it. But then if you look at the weather system and the way the atmosphere circulates, you'll see that it goes to the equator and then it comes back up, and in both cases, from the south, it goes to the equator and comes back down and so on, depending on which side you have the side, south, up or down, or, so basically you have that double torus pretty well everywhere. And I believe it's very much present at the atomic level as well. And it has to do with that 720 rotation of the electron called a Dirac string trick, where the electron is not coincident with itself at 360. It's coincident with itself at 720. And so it has to go around twice to come back, right? So that's that kind of like a Mobius strip of space-time, double torus structure.
Yeah, that's another question I had. Somebody was asking me, like, is a double torus like you have like call it the top donut turning on itself, while spinning, and the other one in the other direction, like sort of separately, or do like if they were the P and one of the torus, of the toroid, would it go down and come back up like two separate, or is like innate or infinite?
Right. Well, that's the thing. Nature is a more complex than that. It's not so simple, meaning it depends the P relationship to the whole, meaning like, you know, the geodesic that the P would be on. So it might just stay in the same torus for a while and then go and get caught in the bottom one. You know, it could, depending on what happens. So think of like a star, right? The stars are actually moving away from the center of the galaxy and into the halo of the galaxy, which is yeah. And so you think of that star coming out, you know, of the spiral like this, and then when it arrives at the halo, depending on where it is, it might be in the upper halo or in the bottom halo. So if it's in the upper halo, it's gonna go in the upper one,
Okay.
right? If it's depending on its rotation on the arm where it's at, it might go on the bottom one. So it might do something, you know.
Okay. So
Yeah.
some stays up, some gets spit out on the horizon, and some goes down.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And some might escape completely, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Some might escape completely and end up in another torus, you know, a few
Another
thousand
galaxy,
light
another
years
world,
away. Yeah.
another universe.
Yeah. Well, in another galaxy, maybe, you know, who knows?
Right.
Yeah.
And somebody was asking me about the
Right.
3 infinite signs as the logo of resonance.
Yes.
Why
That-
3?
Yes, that
Coming.
is that relationship of the two toruses, which includes the way I built technology, you know, to reproduce this natural behavior. So that's why I chose it as the logo for Taurus Tech.
Okay, and what are the relationship between the 3
companies?
Is it, huh?
Between the 3 logos? Yeah, so
the three spirals, or the 3 figure 8s in the resonance logo.
Oh, in the resonance logo.
Yeah.
Yes. Is this okay? Well, the 3 there is representative of, if you look in the middle of where they cross, you can see the geometry of space appearing, right? Like the tetrahedral geometry.
Okay.
Tetrahedrons on their sides are square or cubes. So you can see that, you know, so it's a representation of the field making the geometry.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
All right, thanks, Luke. Always good to see you.
Good questions.
Thank you.
Take good care.
Say hello to Quebec for me. Okay, more questions.
All right, let's see what we got. Time for 2 or 3 more. So this next one, I know you've talked quite a bit about this and maybe even in the past couple of Q&As about the consciousness of water or memory of water, or however you want to name it. So I don't know how much you want to go into that again, but I'll leave that up to you. But Jen is asking about, talk about the consciousness of water and also any insights into what really happens with the homeopathic process, if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, well, you know, structure of water is a big subject. I think some of the best work I've seen on the structure of water was done by Luc Montagnier, a French biologist that received the Nobel Prize for the discovery of HIV genes, I believe. And he did some amazing work. There's a great little movie that was done that you can find on YouTube. Hi, Jan.
Hi.
Where are you at?
I'm in Sedona.
Oh, cool.
You here?
Figures that question would come from Sedona.
Well, I'm a homeopath. I've been practicing for 35 years, and
Oh, wow.
there are a lot of questions, of course, on what really happens in the process of the shaking and diluting, the potentization.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, you know, Montagnier showed a direct. I think that's something you can really kind of lean on, because so if you could look up that video,
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
very
we
familiar with him.
I think we put it in the course in module 6. There's a probably a link to that video of that movie that was done about the structure of, well, the
So,
work
yeah.
that Montagnier did. And you can see that he is concatenating water, right? He's diluting, um, but as well um, using DNA,
Mhm.
and actually at levels of dilution where there's actually nothing there, um, the information becomes extremely potent, meaning that it seems to be able to imprint non-linearly if it's in a magnetic field, an electromagnetic field, to another vial of water inside a Faraday cage, so that he can get a signature. And from that signature, in the movie, for instance, they send it to another lab in Italy, which injects the elements of DNA in there, amino acids, you know, and or the sugars, and basically the protein, and basically it instead of like the material just settling on the bottom, it reproduced the DNA information that was transferred into it, and that pretty well confirms that the water structure is holding information electromagnetically.
How do you
Eh,
think that happens, that they
I-
can transfer it?
I'm sorry.
What do you think the mechanism is that makes it possible to transfer it that way?
Because information in space-time is available, like when, because DNA leaves imprints in the structure of space-time, and you can transmit that information electromagnetically from one coordinates in space-time to another coordinates in space-time in the water medium in the right conditions. And that's why cells can communicate. And that's how they self-organize, you know, because they are communicating. There's a relationship of information of all cells so that they can self-organize. They know what to do. Like standard model doesn't explain how cell differentiation happen. How do they know they're supposed to make a liver or a heart or a lung or whatever, you know? Well, that's because it's getting the information from the structure of space itself, right? Like meaning the imprint is in the structure of space. It's just following the blueprint. And so you can transfer information of that blueprint electromagnetically through water medium, even non-linearly, because space-time is not linear.
But how does it know where to go? How, instead of going to you, it goes to where, in Italy, for example?
No, 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 no. It's not going to Italy. It's not going on vacation. So the information is placed with, you know, the water that has the information is placed with water that does not,
Mhm.
in a Faraday cage in France. Okay. and then left with a little coil, electromagnetic pulse coil at like the same frequency as Earth, Schumann frequency, like 7 hertz. And it's left like that for like some time, 18 hours, whatever. And then eventually that vial that had no information in it at first, then is sent to Italy, okay, to a laboratory over there, okay, and they inject the material, and the material organizes itself automatically in the water to make a replica of that DNA that was in France.
Okay, so it's physically sent. But the process of potentization, of shaking and diluting many times, to my knowledge, nobody has really been able to explain what happens when you do that. Do you have any insight into that?
Right. Well, yes, it's not it's not easy to explain. I can give you an explanation, but I don't know if you're gonna follow it. But I can give it anyway, and you can maybe think about it. But basically, think about information at the cellular level or information at the molecular level as being already kind of like large scale, you know, and so it has already decoherency. It has a lot of like chaotic behavior. It's not so pure, the information. The energy is not so well organized. It's got some chaos in it. Okay, so now if you purify it, meaning you remove the large part of the system, which is the molecules that makes up the compound you're trying to potentiate, or the DNA in the case of Montagnier that is removing literally the molecules, right? The information can be extremely potent because it is highly coherent now. Because it's at the scale of the Planck field. So it's highly coherent. It's pure. It's purer. It's more pure. When you get into the physical, more larger scale part of the physical realm, you have more kind of like disorder, right? If you get closer and closer to the Planck field, you get closer to the crystal metric, you get closer to higher energy, higher, coherency.
Okay.
And so it is more potent.
So that process of the succussion, of shaking and diluting and shaking and diluting, creates a greater level of purity for the frequency.
For the information.
The information.
Yeah, for the information flow, meaning the field geometry is more crystalline, is less. It's like the stuff that was in there is like impurities in a crystal. Like let's give you directly from a crystal. So a crystal wouldn't grow if it didn't have impurities, meaning if it didn't have defects, right? It wouldn't go anywhere. It grows because where there's defects, it starts, crystallizing and make, so so you can think of the molecules you're putting in the water as like defects in the crystal, right? So the information now is embedded in the crystal, and then you remove the defects. So now you just have the pure information. You see what I'm saying? and so so then you put the other molecules in Italy, and because the defects are still there, right? Then the molecules just go boom, 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 right?
Mm.
And they reproduce the DNA because it has it knows exactly where the spots are, right?
Mm.
Do you understand?
Yeah, I'm following you as best I can. Yeah.
Okay, so same thing when you you hit it so that you break up the material
Ah.
and then you purify it, right?
Mhm.
And then so you're removing all the material, but you're keeping the crystal information,
Hmm.
so it becomes more potent.
Interesting. You know, some of our remedies have been shaken and diluted up to 100,000 times.
Correct. Yeah.
And it has a stronger and stronger effect on the body when.
Yeah, the body recognizes the information easier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really helpful.
Yeah, because okay, let me put it in another way. The 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 DNA that's in your body
Mhm.
is arranged that way because of the structure of the water in your body, not just because somehow it knows to arrange itself that way.
Hmm.
And that's what they're discovering. These papers that were published showing that it's the water that modulates the DNA to get it to unzip and map to RNA and all this stuff. It's the water that's doing the job, not like you take the water out, DNA falls apart. You can't, it doesn't stay, together. It doesn't do its thing if it's got no water molecule packing it, right? It's got about 10 layers of water molecule packing it, and you can't remove those. But you can remove the DNA. The water will retain the information.
Right.
Right. So when you do this with your potions, right, then you are basically, I mean, this is one way that it could be explained, is that like you're actually putting the information of that molecule without the molecule in the body, so the body recognizes it immediately,
Uh-huh.
reacts to it,
Right. Right.
without having the chemistry interaction with the body, that it will produce the same chemistry in the body or even better results, but it will not have the molecular interaction, which is more messy.
Okay. That's great. Yeah, it's been possible to actually make remedies from just the frequency of geometric forms, even without a substance.
Yeah, that's why I was saying, if you study Montagnier, it's very, very useful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good body of information, and it didn't start with him. It started with others before him. And it's well discussed in that movie. So that's a really important movie for you to see.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all of your work. Much love.
Thank you. I appreciate.
Yeah.
Say hi to Sedona for me.
With us.
Well.
Yes. Take good care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Nassim, we're at our 90-minute mark. Do you want to complete here or continue for a question or two?
Just one? Maybe?
Say it again?
Maybe just
one question, yeah.
What do you think of the solution?
Okay.
The solution would be to get people into unity consciousness in crisis time. That's a good question. I think in
You
general,
were actually talking about that at the beginning, actually. You were talking about
yeah,
holding the tensile strength.
yeah, holding the tensile strength of the whole
Go
thing.
ahead.
I think that you know, crisis situation brings that naturally as well. You know, people tend to unify when they're facing the same. Hey,
Hello.
Christian, how you
Nice.
doing?
I'm good.
Hi, Christian.
I'm in a beautiful place.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
where?
it's Sarmise Jatuza. It's a sacred site similar to Göbekli Tepe.
Oh,
Yeah.
in Turkey.
In this one is in Romania, but it's connected and similar to the one in Turkey. Yeah.
I see, I see. Oh, great. It's like
Yeah.
is it a stone circle?
It has been made of stone initially, and now it is kind of made of wood. It's like this. You see?
No.
I don't know if you
Oh,
see
there
the
we go.
image.
Oh, it's made out of wood. I see, I see.
Now it's made out of wood, yeah. But it has been made of stone before. Yeah.
It was made
don't
of
know.
stone. So they just replaced the
Yeah.
stone with wood because they were.
Yes, and now this is how it looks. And now they're trying to do something very stupid, like construct little houses of wood and straw to kind of show how the civilization in that area was living. But
Oh,
they're not knowing for sure. So they're just thinking to construct something really weird at the site. So we were there meditating today, doing
can you
some
can
work.
you clean? Can you
Anyway.
click? Can you click on the one that looks like a big oval on the right there?
Let me see.
Your
Which
left, probably. Yeah,
my
keep going
left.
that way. No, the other way. Oh yeah,
The
that
other
one.
left.
Yeah, this one
The
was.
blonde left. So this is one temple, but there's several temples, and they were used for prayer. They were used for kind of, it's like a calendar, an ancient calendar. I'm going to send you more information about it. It's really
Yeah,
precious.
I remember looking at these like years ago. I saw some of them. I couldn't pronounce the name. Say the name again.
Sarmise Jatusa.
Okay. Oh, there we go. The big oval on the right, like.
Ah,
The
yeah,
last
yeah.
one.
Yeah, the last one.
Let's see if I can oval.
No, you were right on it.
You were right at the very last
Oh yeah,
one.
that's the one. Those are stones, no?
Yeah, this is stone exactly. And the other one, the ones who are multiple in the middle, they are also stones. Ah, this one maybe? This one.
No.
Okay, I'll send you all the pictures. You'll tell me which one.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you were on the correct one. Can you go back?
Oh,
these stones. No, just stay there for a minute. These stones look like they're really nicely matched.
Yes.
They're nicely cut.
This is a calendar here. This is actually a calendar here.
I see.
And it's matching some important cosmic correlations, and each of these temples here have a very important significance and also a powerful effect on the energy, body, and consciousness. So
well,
just walking.
Yeah, that's another story. But how old are they?
I couldn't tell because there's several versions of history here that.
Yeah, but what's the standard version?
Oh, let's say 500 BC or more. There was a sun worshipping cult and so on. I'm going to send you all the information on it.
Yeah, okay.
We're still on the issue. There's several versions of history, and they're now trying to reconstruct and build the version of history that they want to present, like something new version of this wants to be set here. And I'm kind of upset about it.
I can tell. You
Yeah.
know, don't despair. There's many, you know, many pieces of evidence coming from all around the world that of a advanced, ancient, you know, pre-cataclysmic society
Exactly.
that was present and that left temples all around the world. So eventually, if this is part of it, I like those walls on the side. Oh, go back. You
Go
keep
back
clicking
forward.
away. Go
I'm
back.
clicking away.
No, there was a nice wall. No, there was a nice wall there I was looking at.
Oh, I wish I knew which one.
Go
Let's
back.
see.
Just before?
Just before.
Yeah, just before. Before this one. There was a nice wall. Yeah, there you go. Stay there. You
I'm
can
there.
see. Oh, why did you move? It's because there's a delay.
There's a thing in your mind very well at this moment. I'm having difficulty. Is this one okay? This is
Yeah,
the one too.
you can. Yeah, this one is good because you can see the wall. You can see how the blocks are so well.
Match.
It's
This is an old citadel. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can see on the round part in front and in the back, like you can see that it's similar to some of the walls you find in Peru or
Mexico. Yeah.
in Mexico. Yeah.
Everything is these ones. Exactly. Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely. They are connected.
Anyway.
So and almost got arrested here for not wearing a mask here where there's no one. So they wanted to arrest me today. So it was an interesting day. I'm happy to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, try not to get arrested, darling. And you know, I had to ski with the mask the other day with the kids.
Oh my God, that's awful.
Yes.
Here we can ski without a mask.
But you know, I'm happy to what was the question? I forgot the question now.
What would be required for us to get into unity consciousness in such
so crises occur, and when the crises occur, tendency is for people to unify against whatever perceived enemy, you know. But currently the thing is that there's multiple crises going on at the same time, so it's dividing people. But the good thing is that I think what people are realizing more and more is that we're all in the same boat. I saw this amazing, beautiful short movie that was done by NASA recently about the experience of astronauts looking back at the Earth and what it brought up for them. And they all had the consensus that it made them realize how unified we are, how all the weather systems are connected and everything is connected. And they say that multiple times during the video. I thought that was nice. And the little movie. And they even, at one point, one of the astronauts blurs out, people ask me all the time when I looked at the stars away from the Earth, if I thought there was life out there, and he was like, "Of course, there's life out there. There's life everywhere." And so I think that's good to see, and I think that we are there's not really any way to force that on I think everybody has to have their personal realization, their personal experience, and part of it is to go vertical, like you know, as soon as you go vertical, it's easy. Like you don't need to be in a orbiting space station to see the Earth from above, meaning you can clearly like imagine and know that, you know, you're on the surface of a planet and you can see yourself as like in orbit looking at the planet, or you can see yourself in the galaxy looking at the galaxy. And then it becomes easy to feel unified with all the human race, and not see the divisions, but see the unity of the whole thing. And I so it's not just something that that you know, when I was watching that little movie, I was thinking about that very specifically. I was thinking, you know, it's interesting that um it for these people's life, it required that they'd be in the space station looking back at the Earth to get that sensation, which is, you know, maybe something that should like come up naturally and inherently in realizing that we're all on a small rock flying through space at like insane speeds, and you know, we're all in the same boat, and that the lines we made between countries just don't exist. That's one thing that one of the astronaut was mentioning, is like, I know I wasn't supposed to expect that, but I still had in my head like all the colors of the little countries and all the lines, and then when I got up there, it's like nothing like that. It's just one big thing, and you know, so like it's something that anybody can experience just by going vertical and thinking about the universe or themselves beyond, you know, the horizontal day-to-day life.
Absolutely, and that's the trick of this game now, that it catches people into the horizontal state. I mean, state of relating
Mm-hmm.
so much. It's like so many things are keeping people stuck in the physicality of it. If you will.
Well, I disagree. I think that at the same time, um, I don't disagree, but I would like to add that at the same time, um, y- people are realizing more and more that like the horizontality of everything, everyday life, and all this has to have a deeper meaning. You know, like there people are very much looking for a deeper meaning, and they have the time to research it because they're on lockdown, and you know, they have the time to think about those things, when before they were just in the rat race, you know, or in the wheels spinning and just running, and didn't really have the time to contemplate, what am I doing this for? Why am I here? What is this thing? You know, what is this experience I'm having? Um, the thing is they don't necessarily realize they have to go vertical to understand it. You know, like they have to like go out from the cage and still continue to run on the little wheel, but then be like a third party looking at it going, okay, I'm running on the little wheel. But
It's fun to play with.
yeah, that's okay, but that's not me, right? Me is something else than the little thing that's running on the wheel. So and I think that's occurring. I think
Yes.
people are realizing that.
Yes, and for so many, the notion of going vertical is abstract in itself. So if you were to narrow it down to one simple activity or choice, what would it be?
um I think that um Well, interestingly, in order to go vertical, you have to go inward. You have to go to the point of singularity where the axe of rotation is. So, so anytime they can do self-contemplation, you know, like self-awareness exercise, you know, just like we were talking a little bit earlier, you know, there's a little voice, to realize that there's a conversation happening, and then to like engage that conversation in a conscious way, meaning, you know, not just let it run, but just like explore what that conversation is and who is that conversation happening with, you know, and you know, and
Who am I talking to?
who am I talking to?
Who's at the end of the
You
line?
know, we talk to ourselves in the shower, we talk, you know, in the car, you know, all the time, like
Who's talking to who?
yeah, who's talking to who? And and then, you know, that could be a Dr. Seuss episode, but
Yeah.
you know, it would be good for people to take the time to contemplate that.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, and also that's probably the sure next step to discovering the free energy that we are benefiting from every day inside of us.
Sure, that's yeah, and then eventually outside of us as well.
Outside at some point in time.
Yeah.
God help us. That can help us. We're in physics conversation now.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yes. Thanks, Christiana. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. As always, thank you, Nassim.
Thank
very
you.
much.
It's been great. I love it. And, you know, everybody continue participating in the course online. You know, I think we busted 80,000 people. Now I think we're closer to 90. And please, you know, continue to discuss things and investigate, and we have stuff coming as well. We have like module 7 coming. It's going to be super excited. And in module 8 we have online courses as well, like electives you can take. I think we launched one from Elena yesterday and so on. We have all kinds of really good stuff, and becoming a member really helps us finance the whole thing and continue the research and hire more people to help. You know, we're talking to many other physicists, because some of the work we're doing requires a little army, and you know, this allows us to do these things and go deeper and for the benefit of everybody. And so we appreciate at the deepest level all of your contribution, even if including, you know, your intents and consciousness and your help on whichever level it occurs. So thank you so much, and then we really look forward to next month, same time, same channel.
Yes, same time, next channel, first Wednesday of February at 12 o'clock Pacific time. Look forward to seeing you all there, and have a great month. We'll do the faculty Q&A in 2 weeks from now at the same time, and we'll see you there. Take good care, everybody. Be well.
Much mahalo. May the vacuum be with you. 2021, let's go. Woo! Woo!
Happy New Year.
Fibonacci year.
Yeah.